gave me a thumbs up.
Yeah.
Both guys?
Both of them will play. Zaza will start.
Okay.
Well, what went into the decision to insert him right back into the starting lineup?
I considered either way, but I think we had a good groove with Zaza as the starter, and JaVale was still making an impact when Zaza was starting, bringing him in midway through the first quarter. It hadn't done the other way, so I've seen JaVale with our group, later in the second quarter or later in the first quarter, and that worked well. So I figured I might as well go back to what's already worked.
Steve, halfway point of the season was a while ago. Does this feel like the start of the home stretch?
Yeah. It is weird that I don't remember having an All-Star break where there was only 26 games. It does seem later than usual, but it's always a point where you kind of take a deep breath and you're like, all right, we've made it this far, and now here comes the home stretch, and we're in a good place, and guys are energized, especially now with a week off instead of 4 days. McAdoo looks tan. It's unbelievable. Guys are going all over the place, getting rest and beach time, and it's awesome. And so everybody was pretty energetic and happy this morning, and yeah, I think we're all excited about the stretch run.
Did you get a chance?
I got down to San Diego for 2 days, so we flew back Sunday night after the game, and then I flew down to San Diego Monday, spent the night down there. My wife and I went down there. It was nice just to get away, get out of town, get out of the rain a little bit.
And then came back to a really great Cal game, right?
Oh, yeah, it was killer.
Steve, this may sound pretty basic. I mean, you guys are a player. You know what to do. You know what to do for them. In terms of their best interest. You've been through this. Even Katie mentioned it today that he gave us an extra day. How much do you always go back and think, okay, this is what I was going through, and every day probably?
Yeah, I think about it all the time. And sometimes I ask Willie, because Willie, just got out of the league 2 years ago. It's been a while for me, so Willie is a recent player, but sometimes I'll ask him, what do you think? Are we, were we just tired tonight from the grind of the season, or do we need to address something? And Willie always has great advice based on his own playing experience. But it really does help. It's not a requirement, obviously, but it does help to have played and to have been in their shoes. And the All-Star break, to be in New Orleans and to see what the 4 All-Stars had to go through on the weekend, there's no rest at all. You're going from one media session to the next community service event to practice to a game. And so it's all about finding a little bit of relaxation and rest for them. And one day of practice, they were way better served going off somewhere and relaxing than coming in and shooting. They're going to get plenty of practice here the next few months.
Steve, Kevin talked today about wanting to be a GM someday, and he said he's kind of picked your brain. Can you see some of the qualities in him to be a GM or a team owner?
Well, he loves the game. I mean, that's the first requirement if you want to go into coaching or management or ownership. You got to love it, and he loves it. He doesn't want to miss any work. He doesn't want to miss a game. He doesn't want to miss practice. I mean, he loves just being out on the floor and being part of the team. So that's the first step. So he may find when he retires, hopefully not for a long time, but he may find that he wants to get away for a year or two. I think that's always healthy for guys to get away from the league for a little bit before they come back in. But why are we talking about this? He's a young man. Let's talk about tonight.
Steve, a tough question because it does ask you to kind of put yourself in the mindset of Steph and Katie and some of your guys that were at the game. But my impressions watching the All-Star game is that your guys were not chasing anything. Steph wasn't in the three-point contest. They played at their own speed in the game. They had no interest in scoring 40 points in the All-Star game. It just appeared to me that they were about something else. Like that was something they were there to do for the fans. So now I'm asking you, do you get the impression or the sense that obviously that was that, we've been there, we've done that, what we want to do is something else?
Yeah, I think that's accurate. I think that Steph, being in the three-point contest year after year, he recognized that it's another night where, you know, you gotta be there, you gotta be on, you gotta be ready to roll, you gotta compete.
Yeah.
I think he recognized it was probably more important for him just to relax that night. The game, you're right. I mean, none of those guys were interested in chasing the MVP. They all wanted Anthony Davis to get it since he was in his hometown, and they were passing the ball to him, and nobody wanted to play more than 15 or 20 minutes. And absolutely, I think they looked at it as a weekend where they wanted to fulfill their requirements, but they didn't want to extend themselves too much. They know what's ahead, and we've seen what's behind us the last couple of years. It's a lot of commitment, a lot of basketball, a lot of energy expended.
Steve, you mentioned earlier about giving guys extra day of rest. Last year, you guys came out of the break and you went to Portland and got blown out. Was there possibly a lesson learned from that, or does that go into your thinking in terms of how you handle a break this time?
No,
at all?
No, not at all. Not at all. It's a different season, different game. This is just about everybody got their rest, and now we come back and we got a home game. I think it helps to play a home game as the first game back. We'll have our crowd behind us. You always worry about the first game back,
right,
because you haven't practiced, but neither has the other team. And, so you just got to go out and play. And our guys know that they know what our goals are. 26 games left. We'd like to get home court. We don't want to slip up. We know we have a couple of brutal trips to San Antonio, so we don't want to slip up. We'll be ready to play.
Hi, Coach. Our jobs, players. After that, you became president of basketball operations, GM, also a TV commentator. Now, coach, very successful. My question is about another basketball figure, that's Chinese former player Yao Ming. He was named president of Chinese Basketball Association yesterday. After his retirement, he became an owner of Chinese basketball team. And last year, he was named vice president of Chinese Basketball Clubs Association, now president. So from your standpoint, could you talk about the experiences that you had in the past years? How do you make a lot of transitions and embrace a lot of different new roles? Also, could you talk about your impression of thought about Yao Ming? Thank you.
Well, Yao has stayed in the game, as you mentioned, as an owner for the last few years. He's very active in basketball. This is a new role for him. So for me, to go into management from television was probably a similar transition that Yao's going through. He was active, but he hadn't been a general manager or a director. So it's a tough adjustment. It's something that you have to experience. You have to go through, and I'm sure he'll do a good job. But there's things that you have to learn and that you can only learn on the job. But I'm sure he's prepared himself. As I said, he's been staying in the game. He's been very active and visible, and he always loved. You could tell how much he loved to play, and so his passion for the game, I'm sure, will serve him well in that role.
You touched on this a little. The balancing of minutes versus the demands of the schedule. I mean, is there a specific thing or two that you rely on to achieve that balance as you go forward? Because like you said, the schedule coming up is going to be pretty tough. But at the same time, you want to maintain that top overall seed.
Right. Yeah. It was tough the last couple of weeks. I mean, without Zaza and David, we were already shorthanded, and then there were guys who were tired at key times, and we could tell. And we debated certain nights, giving guys a night off. We had some minor injuries. Clay missed a game or two with minor injuries. So we've been doing a little bit of juggling the last couple of weeks, but we haven't given days off to KD or Steph or Andre or Sean. Actually, Sean got it, but it's something, especially with this trip coming up, we've got to be very careful with. And so that means talking to the players every day, seeing how they're doing, talking to the training staff. We have the information from Sport View cameras in every arena, how much they're working, what their load is compared to the previous game, and all that stuff. So we have some technical stuff that can help us, but usually it's more about talking to them directly. And if a guy's just wiped out, gotta give him a night off.
Steve, Zaza to the training staff yesterday. He said some guys canceled their plans to stay back and get him ready.
Yeah.
And that is something he appreciated greatly, and I'm guessing you did too. Is
Yeah.
all of that accurate? And how many guys stayed back with him?
Well, Roger Sancho stayed back,
Yeah.
which was great. I mean, we had some of our staff was able to get away for a couple of days, which they needed. They need just as much as the players. But we had a couple guys stay back with David and Zaza, and that was great. Yeah, everybody's on board. Everybody's got to keep our guys ready, and so I'm very appreciative of those guys for that.
Great, thank you, appreciate that.